everybody? Everyone ready? We're gonna get started. Oh, sorry, here's the mic. You want to sit away? You stand up because we're gonna go right away.
Okay.
Here's Senator Bobby Joe Champion. He's gonna kick us off.
First of all, let me start by saying thank you for being here. And even in the absence of our wonderful Congresswoman, we are happy that you are here tonight. I want you to know that I know that we are experiencing some real challenges these days, and I want to acknowledge that. And before I go further in my comments, you also know that we have Councilmember Vita that's here. Can you give her a hand, along with Councilmember Pearl Warren, Hennepin County Commissioner. She's also known as the Commiss. She's our Hennepin County President. And my wonderful partner in crime, I say, in our Senate District, Representative Abaje. Will you give them a hand, please? Now, notice that I'm sort of taking control for a second, right? Only because they asked me to, so I don't want you to think that I'm just standing up like, who is this guy who's standing up talking to us? I am state senator and president of the Minnesota Senate. I'm Bobby Joe Champion, and you're in our wonderful Senate district, so welcome to the district. And I do want to start by saying, in the absence of Congresswoman Omar, that I want to thank her for inviting me here tonight for an update and talk about what we've been doing. But also, I want to thank her publicly for being such a fearless leader in our 5th Congressional District. Can we give her a hand in her absence? And as I mentioned, that we have been experiencing some real challenges. But I want to say thank you to those who have been observers, and thank you to those who have helped provide food and legal advice, support, and comfort to our fellow Minnesotans and neighbors. Can we give them and all of you a hand for that? You probably know this because you've heard this probably from your friends and family, that the eyes of the nation and the world are on Minnesota. I've heard people from Chicago. I also heard from other Senate presidents who've called me from Maryland and from Colorado and from other places. And they've been sending us positive energy. And what they've been saying more than anything is, we are standing with Minnesota. And I want you to know, all those who've been out there and working and making sure that we take care of our neighbors, I want to say thank you. What I also want to say is that during these uncertain times, I've worked to provide legal support, because most of you, or some of you, probably know that I'm a lawyer. And some of the work that I've been doing alongside my immigration attorney friends have been, helping those individuals who unfortunately were detained by ICE. And some of them need to, know, and families need to know where they are and what are some of their legal rights. And so we've been working really hard in order to make sure that we can give them the support they need and the families what they need. Because when you get detained by ICE and you don't know what's going on, and guess what? A lot of them are U.S. citizens. So it's unfamiliar territory. And so we've been making sure that we've been helping them. Now, here's the other thing that I've been doing along with Viviana Salazar. We've been making sure families, regardless of their circumstances, are prepared in the event that they're detained by ICE. Like, for an example, we've been doing delegations of parental authority. Some people call that a DOPA. What that is as a parent, if you believe that you're going to be detained, or it's possible that you could be detained, you want to make plans for your family. And you want to make plans for your children. And so we make sure that if they're able to talk to a neighbor, a friend, or someone, to say, in the event that I need you, I've signed a document that says that you'll make sure that my 5-year-old or my 2-year-old is okay. And so we've been helping families with those. Again, we call it a DOPA, but it's a delegation of parental authority. Another thing that I've been working on along with Viviana Salazar, is making sure families also have what we call power of attorneys, but not a normal power of attorney. It has expanded rights. So if someone signs it, for an example, one of the things that we've been noticing is that if someone is detained, and unfortunately, they are sometimes sent to Texas right away. And sometimes we got to fight to get them back and fight to make sure that they have a plan. But let's say, for an example, a family says, you know what, in the event that I'm going to get deported, or if anything was to happen to me, and you have my child here in the great state of Minnesota, I want to make sure that I have the possibility of reuniting with my child. And if you do not, the person who is taking care of him, if they do not have the authority to be able to travel with that child, there's a problem about them being reunified. And so we've been making sure that there's that extended power of attorney, and families know about those things. Another thing that we did, and you will hear a little more about, is not long ago we had a Know Your Rights virtual event. And with our Know Your Rights, we had the ACLU, we had the Attorney General's office, we had a representative from North Point, so folks would know about food and what could be done, whether it's delivery or whether it's extended hours, that people could have that opportunity. Commissioner Barnett was also with us from the city of Minneapolis, and some of the conversation has circled around, well, why is it that MPD can't arrest ICE agents? Right? I know you're thinking, well, I want to know that too. Right? And so we talked about that and what are some of the challenges, but what are some of the things that we can do in real time. But I want you to know that we did that Know Your Rights, and we had it virtually, because one of the things that Representative Bajay and all of us talked about, along with City Council members Vita and Warren, what we talked about was by doing it virtually, we wanted to make sure anybody who wanted to attend to get the information could also attend. And so that's why we did it 100% virtually. And we had over 200 people who showed up. And I must admit, in the beginning, we got so many people that we had to extend the capacity because we didn't have enough space in the very beginning. And so I want to thank, right in the back there, you'll see two ladies who work so diligently. So anything I'm doing along with other things, you'll see Shamika Bogan right there. If you turn around, she's waving. Will you give Shamika Bogan a hand? It sounds like Shamika Bogan has a fan here if nobody else has a fan here. And the other young lady that you see there, so Shamika is my executive assistant to the president, but the other young lady is Taylor Bennett. She is my committee legislative assistant. Can you give her a hand as well? So that's going to lead me to here. In anticipation of the upcoming legislative session, people have said, well, what are you going to do? We know what you're doing on the streets. We know that you're working hard with our friends and neighbors. What are some of the things that you're going to do possibly when the next legislative session starts? So I want to start with the first thing. We've been hearing from a number of businesses that have been affected by all these ICE raids and the presence of ICE. So there are people who are not going to work because they're afraid, as well as there are individuals who are U.S. citizens who won't go to restaurants and won't come out the house also. So businesses are suffering. And so there's been a lot of discussion about, is there anything that we can do to provide some support to businesses? That is something that we'll think about and try to figure out whether that is possible, because as you know, we got to think about and look at whether we have the wherewithal, money that is. So whenever I say wherewithal, somebody say money, okay, in order to make it happen, right? Because we know the other pressures that we're also receiving from the federal government, where they're stopping payment and stopping certain programs. So we had to think about all those things in real time. But as the president of the Senate, but I'm also chair of Jobs and Economic Development, that is something that we are going to talk about. And let me also say this. One of the other things that we're working on is I'm looking, along with Representative Long and Senator Fateh, introduction of policy that would allow us personally to sue the federal government for violating our constitutional rights, whether our First Amendment right, whether it's our Fourth Amendment right, whatever it is. We're also exploring making it unlawful for law enforcement or ICE in particular to not wear masks. We want to make sure that they're not able to wear masks. And we know that even though we've been dealing a lot with ICE and those sort of things, we still have to look back and make sure that we are responsive to those families who have died by way of gun violence. And we want to ban assault weapons as well as ban high-capacity weapons. So I'm going to quickly end because Shamika's giving me this sign right here because that usually means hurry up. So if you have any other ideas, please let us know. I'm certainly sure that you can let Representative Abaje know as well. We have to work to do a couple things. One is we have to work to maintain and elect a House and Senate majority to protect and advance our gains. We do not want to go backwards. And so we want to make sure, even though it feels uncomfortable to talk about caucuses, we still have to think about having a long-term strategy. Because we can't let the same people represent us in Congress. We got to get some people in Congress that's going to do some work. And from my vantage point, we also must elect a Democratic valued governor. We want to make sure that we got someone in the governor's mansion who's going to support us. And I mentioned this. We know that there's some congressional and other constitutional seats that are up. I just want you to know that it's important for us to think about our future. So even though we're in the present and we have to deal with the challenges of the day, but we also have to deal with the future. And how do we make sure we chart a course? And how do we make sure that we create a pathway towards victory? So thank you so very much. Thank you for having me. I got to run, and it's not because I'm bored by the conversation, but it's because I have to go someplace else. So give yourselves a hand for being here. And now we're going to Commissioner Irene Fernando. So thank you so very much. Thank you, Commissioner.
Give it up for President Champion, everybody. And round of applause for Congresswoman Omar's staff who's here. Hi, everyone. I'm Hennepin County Commissioner Irene Fernando, but you can call me Commish. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a very proud Northsider, and I'm a very, very proud child of immigrants. I first want to say what's happening right now in Minnesota and across the country. We have reports in Maine. We have reports in Utah. It is inhumane, unlawful, and unconstitutional from my perspective. It is unprecedented that we are in this moment, but unfortunately, some of the behavior we're seeing is predictable. There is a playbook that is concentrating power far, far away from the people, and only through our democratic systems, through the First Amendment of protest and assembly and voice that everyone has been contributing to, will we be able to make it to the other side of this. And so I want to honor Renee Good and Alex Preddy's humanity and express that many leaders, many of your leaders, we are seeking to strategize how we can ensure that we are protecting every single person's constitutional rights and that we are pushing back on this encroachment on our civil liberties. So want to express that. Raise your hand if you're familiar with the differences between county, state, and city. Okay, awesome, love that. So I am privileged to represent District 2. There are 7 county commissioners on the 7-person county board. I'm the youngest woman to ever serve on the county board. I'm the first Filipino American in the state of Minnesota, and I'm our first board chair of color in 174-year history. And I see the actual person of the hour has arrived, so I will keep it very, very direct. County is primarily here for services. We are the primary government mandated to care for the vulnerable. That's foster care, that's SNAP, that's our elderly, it's our children, that's people in need. Our federal reality right now is that they are not funding food, health care, and housing. And it seems as though they have reprioritized kidnapping, violence, and family separation. And so from a Hennepin County perspective, our primary legislative priority is to ensure that we are identifying a reliable non-property tax revenue source to stabilize our healthcare system, to continue the public health that the federal government has concluded, and then to further prioritize public health priorities such as domestic violence and gun violence. Our top priority is for the health and well-being, ensuring that we have the funds to continue the last 5-10 years of really strong work. Hennepin has brought down homelessness. Hennepin has ended functional homelessness for veterans. We were able to stabilize economically during the pandemic, and we have sought to expand the mental health resources, both in public safety response as well as with our young people. So we will need everyone's voices coming together to fight for our shared humanity without apology. And that is the commitment that I will make to you. That I know that's a commitment of every single elected official who's up here. And without further ado, may I bring up on the stage our very own CD5 Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar.
Thank you, Commish, and thank you to our Senate President, Bobby Joe Champion. Now I would like to turn it over to your representative, Representative Esther Abaje.
Oh, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you again, Congresswoman Omar. We really appreciate the invitation and all the work that you're doing for us in Washington. Particularly, you are one of the strongest voices standing up against the lawlessness of this federal government, so thank you. My name is Esther Agbaje. I represent House District 59B in the Minnesota House of Representatives, which is where you are right now, so welcome. Again, as Senator Champion and the Commissioner said, I do just want to say thank you to all those who are out there on the front lines, putting your body on the line for our constitutional rights. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And then for those of you who are doing the mutual aid, the fundraising, the dropping kids off at school, picking them up, helping your neighbors get to and from doctor's appointments, all of that is seen and necessary, and we thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I was asked to talk today mostly about kind of things that we're working on in this time period. So in Minnesota, the legislature isn't in yet. We go back in about 2.5 weeks, but we have still been working really hard with our executive partners in the governor's office to make sure that we are trying to protect people in Minnesota. So we're engaged with them all the time. Some of the things that we're talking about that we either want to bring forward as legislation or that we want to see if we can get done before the legislature opens again is really focused on ensuring that we're protecting the rights of Minnesotans, which is why our Attorney General has filed multiple lawsuits against this federal government to show that they cannot do this overreach that they're doing, that they cannot trample on our First Amendment rights and our Fourth Amendment rights and our Second Amendment rights. And he's been doing a wonderful job in that space, and I know that there's been some back and forth with which temporary restraining order is going up now, where's the appeal, where's that, but we know that that office is on top of it to make sure that we will win in the end. We also know that we're pushing on the governor's office as well to figure out a way to ensure that people can stay housed during this time. One of the fallouts from a lot of this ICE operation is that people are not going to work. People's businesses are either shortening their hours or they're closing. And that makes it really hard to make money to be able to pay rent, pay utilities. A lot of that is getting covered kind of one-on-one through mutual aid, but we know that we need to have a larger network to kind of meet that need. So there's a lot of discussion about whether that takes the form of an eviction moratorium, whether that takes the form of extending our eviction notice. Right now we have a 14-day eviction notice in the state of Minnesota. We want to make that a 30-day notice. And also looking at other tools to try to ramp up where we can, pushing rental assistance out more. So those are the types of conversations that we've been having. And of course, we're also having conversations to make sure that ISIS stays out of our hospitals and out of our schools, because those are places where we know that they should not be, and they should not be terrorizing our community there. As we move forward into the session, as much as we're going to work on bills to strengthen Minnesota's laws to push back against ICE, from, as you heard from Senator Champion, making sure that federal agents do not wear masks, making sure that federal agents can be held accountable through a private action to sue. We're also looking at ways to make sure that they don't use chemical irritants in our streets, particularly here on the north side. On the north side, I think 2 Wednesdays ago, we had an ICE operation here that threw a lot of tear gas into our neighborhoods. This is also one of the neighborhoods that has the highest rates of asthma in children in the state of Minnesota. That is detrimental to our health, right? So this is more than just pushing back on ICE, but making sure that we stay and live in a healthy community. And similarly, we're also looking to make sure that there's more investigative authority in our county systems rather than trying to centralize everything, particularly if we want to be sure that we can get that evidence that we need to prosecute ICE agents. So those are some of the things that we hope to see. Outside of the ICE space, we're working to continue to strengthen many of the laws that we passed in the past couple of years. So things from making sure the African American Family Preservation Act still stands, making sure, yes, that helps keep families together. Making sure that the tenants' rights laws that we've passed still stay and are still followed by our court system. And then ensuring that workers' rights are protected. We started a nursing home workforce standards board. We want to try to expand that and also solidify that. So those are some of the things you'll see on. And then 2 things that are really important to me, making sure that housing actually, particularly single-family homes, stays for people and not corporations. So we want to ensure that large investors don't have the ability to just buy up single-family home properties. Again, we've seen it in parts of the suburbs, also on the north side. We want to make sure that those homes are available and at a good price for people to be able to buy their first home if that's what they want, or build a family in a home. And then finally, we're looking at ways to strengthen our civil rights laws in Minnesota, because we know the federal government continues to erode all of our civil rights at all levels. We want to ensure that in Minnesota, at least your civil rights will be protected here. So those are some of the things you can expect to see in this legislative session, along with many more issues that we're tackling all the time. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the invitation, and look forward to the rest of the conversation this evening.
Thank you, Representative Abaje. And we will wrap up with the City Council members for North Minneapolis, Latricia Fita and Pearl Warren.
Good evening, everyone. I thought Councilmember Warren and I were going to come up together. How cool would that be? She just started a month ago, so she probably, needs some help. Thank you all so much. Happy to be here. Someone didn't turn the heat down like I requested. It is extremely hot for a 50-year-old woman that's, going through some things right now in life. Right. So thank you so much for having me here, Congresswoman. Thank you to elected colleagues for being here. I think we've all spent a lot of time together in this last month trying to come up with the most resources we've been able to. I was asked to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about, so take your coats off. I got a lot. There's a lot going on in 2 minutes. No. So first thing is, I'm sure you all have seen the news. I was in conversations with the mayor yesterday. He had a conversation with the president, and it looks like we're going to get some relief in some of the agents being taken out of Minneapolis. I don't know what that number is. The mayor could not give me a count of what that number was, but he feels good. I felt like we were having a really good conversation and a confident one about some of the agents leaving the state. And so I am going to check in with him. I know that he had a meeting today with the border czar. I was busy with Ward 4 issues. I saw a few Ward 4 residents in here taking care of Ward 4 residents. We're handling things. So I don't know where we are yet, but I will check in, and I'm pretty sure the mayor and all of us will be reporting those things on our social media or whatever channels we have. Lastly, I don't know how many people are Northsiders here. I want to leave with. Okay, there's a lot of us. If you're from the north side, Miss Anita, I hear you. If you're from the north side, we've been dealing with a dumping issue over here. And so one of the things that I wanted to report back that we're working on is Councilmember Warren and I are working on how we help our businesses who get, what we've seen over the years is a lot of first-tier suburbs who don't have the same type of trash removal that we have in Minneapolis, typically dump their stuff in North Minneapolis. And we don't like it. We're not a dumping ground for trash in the city of Minneapolis. And so it is something that just came. I mean, so the night that Representative Babaje talked about that they were setting off the smoke bombs and stuff in North Minneapolis, the incident we had with the man being shot by ICE, the next morning I woke up, and when I got back to Lindale Avenue, the streets were filled with trash. And the reason why the streets were filled with trash is because the field adjacent to that had been a dumping ground. And so agitators went and dumped all the trash, just strolled. This is a neighborhood. This is where people live. People had already experienced so much trauma the night before. I was lucky that Public Works got out there early and cleaned it up. But it's a serious issue in North Minneapolis. And Councilmember Warren and I are already working on policies to protect us from dumping. It's a huge cost that's associated with that for businesses, especially businesses that already question if they should open up in North Minneapolis. So we're working hard to figure out policy and procedure for relief for the dumping, not only from residents, but also businesses. One morning I got a call. Someone said, "Councilmember, I can't get out of my alley. There are 300 tires in my alley." And I said, what kind of strange prank call is this about 300 tires? So me and my team, Wyatt and Maggie, they're somewhere in the room. They're here. We went to go see 300 tires at the end of an alley. Believe it or not, it's not the only time we've seen this dumping. 40 mattresses we got a call one day from an area that we had just saw cleaned up by the city of Minneapolis. 10 minutes later, 40 mattresses. So I know we got bigger things happening in the world, but we do, as North Minneapolis residents, want our neighborhood safe and clean and welcoming. And so Councilmember Warren and I are working very hard to make sure we get rid of the dumping in North Minneapolis. Thank you.
How you beautiful people doing? Make some noise for yourselves. Thank you to my partnered elected officials. It warms my heart to be here as a newly elected official and be in the presence of community. As your new representative and council member for Ward 5, I am taking this time to focus primarily on constituent services. That is a lot of what I heard from a lot of the residents. So as Councilmember Vita plainly stated to you, the servitude within the community is my primary priority right at this time. Establishing, building, and restoring those relationships and faith within your representative for the 5th Ward here. I know we have a few of our Ward 5 residents here, North Minneapolis residents, but servitude is very important to me. I know our hearts are heavy with a lot of the things that are happening within the community, but that's a major part of public safety, is having someone that you can talk to and that will pick up the phone when you call, that's going to answer those calls and bring you a sense of security and assurance around things that affect your day-to-day needs, and I'm here for it. So I want to thank you all so much for coming out today. My senior policy aide, Rachel Hudson, is here. I do have cards if you want to reach out, but call, and I will answer, and do the best that I can to serve you during these difficult times. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
In the 5th, we oftentimes talk about how important it is for us to go govern together, and I am really delighted for the showing from local electeds who represent the constituents that we get to represent on a federal level. I want to start by recognizing the fact that on January 24th, ICE agents murdered another member of our community. Alex Jeremy Preddy was an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA. He was an avid outdoorsman, a U.S. citizen. He was an incredibly compassionate person who cared for others countlessly. This is what he appeared to be doing just before being murdered, protecting another observer that was being attacked by ICE agents. Alex's murder by federal agents was not accidental or isolated. We witnessed this during the murder of Renee Good by federal agents. ICE's reckless and lawless actions have taken a mother from 3 children, a partner from a wife, and inflicted unfathomable pain on our community. Similar to Alex and Renee, they were exercising their First Amendment right, an act that this administration has deemed a capital offense. Renee Good should be alive. Alex Preddy should still be alive. Please, let's take a moment of silence for Alex and Renee. Thank you. My deepest condolences go out to Alex and Renee's family, friends, and everyone who knew and loved them. We will not stop fighting until we achieve real justice and accountability. The level of violence, federal overreach, lawlessness carried out in the name of immigration enforcement is unprecedented. U.S. citizens are being assaulted and detained. Minnesotans are expected to carry their citizenship papers. People are dying in ICE custody. This administration has reduced any semblance of due process, sending people out of state to prevent them from having legal representation. Doors are being broken down without judicial warrants. Chemical irritants, pepper balls, flashbangs are being used without a second thought. DHS is thriving in secrecy, obscuring the conditions my constituents are being held in. This is not the America we know. This is not the America we love. Every Minnesotan has a right to feel safe and welcomed. Earlier this month, I co-led a hearing with Representative Chaya Paul on Trump's deadly assault on Minnesota. We welcomed 27 members of Congress to hear from witnesses on what has been happening on the ground and raise the alarm. Trump and his paramilitary immigration enforcement will not get away with their unlawful attacks on our state. The Constitution is on our side, and we will fight every single day to defend it. As it's been said, real justice and accountability starts with full, transparent investigation and legal action against ICE, followed by the abolishment of the agency. ICE cannot be reformed. It cannot be rehabilitated. We must abolish ICE for good. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. Fucking asshole. I don't know.
Oh my God, he sprayed something on her.
I need a napkin to know nothing. No, we will continue.
No. Ilhan, you need to go get checked. No.
We will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get away with it.
You need to go get checked. No, I don't know what. No. That's whatever it is smells so bad. She needs to go get checked. I don't know
That's
what
what
that
that's
was.
what they want. Please don't let them know.
It's not about him, Ilhan. Ilhan, it's not about him. It's about your safety. No, he sprayed something on you. You need to go get checked. Yeah, and it smells terrible.
We're going to keep talking. Just give me 10 minutes.
Minnesota strong, and we will stay resilient in the face of whatever they might throw at us.
Everybody settle down. I'm going to finish my remarks. It is important for me to continue to lead my Democratic colleagues in demanding her resignation. And like I said, if she does not resign, we are going to introduce articles of impeachment. This moment in U.S. history, and particularly in Minnesota, requires all of us to be working together to preserve our democracy. When we say we are going to put our lives on the line for what is our right, we mean that. Last week, my Republican colleagues put forth a Homeland Security funding bill that includes $28 billion for ICE and Border Patrol. I refuse to greenlit finding a rogue agency that and opposes our most basic freedoms. I've already stated tonight, ICE is shooting people in broad daylight, beating up teenagers, spraying tear gas on peaceful protesters, ripping people out of their cars and homes without warrant, racially profiling people based on their accent, taking kids from schools and abducting people, shipping them far away detention camps with brutal conditions and no due process. We cannot treat this as business as usual. That's why I led the entire Congressional Progressive Caucus in opposing this bill. And we, as a caucus, adopted an official position, and now we have gotten all of the Democratic senators to agree to that position and hold ICE accountable. But this president's lawlessness does not stop with ICE and border enforcement. We are seeing how he's threatening Greenland and Venezuela and Iran and Cuba and Colombia. He has already taken lives in the Caribbean, and we wanted to pass a war powers resolution to hold him accountable. We are hoping for our Republican colleagues to grow a backbone and come on the right side of history. The last DC update I will mention before I take questions from you is that the House took up legislation from Minnesota member Representative Stauber that would open up hundreds of thousands of acres in our beautiful boundary waters to mining development. The boundary waters is the most visited wilderness in the U.S. It features peaceful, remote areas, one of the world's largest dark sky sanctuaries, and it is home to unique ecosystems, including several endangered species. And my beautiful children go hiking there and canoeing, and so it is personal to me to preserve it, not just as Minnesotan, but as a mom. Many of my colleagues here, especially Councilwoman Warren, mentioned the fact that constituent work is the backbone of what we do as your representatives. And it is no different because we are your liaison for the federal government. Our staff can please raise their hand if they're in the room. These people work for you. We can be a crucial line of advocacy for our constituents who are experiencing issues with the federal government, like irregularities, delays, and emergencies. Although it is a difficult environment we are working in right now, our duty remains the same. My district office phone line is monitored from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. Congressional casework involving ICE is unique and narrow, but we can help with locating an individual detained by ICE if they are not appearing in a detainee located system within 48 hours. Inquiring on urgent medical issues to ensure an individual is receiving appropriate medical treatment, ensuring an individual's attorney or loved ones are able to communicate with them, and importantly, our office cannot provide legal advice or assistance. If you are unsure whether we can help with a specific issue, please contact my office at 612-333-1272. I'll repeat that again, 612-333-1272. And we will review whatever detail you want us to review. So far, we have worked on 800 cases with issues like Social Security, immigration, taxes, healthcare, and more. Our team has returned more than $4.8 million to our constituents, businesses, and organizations in the district. Like I said, we might not be able to solve every problem, but we will definitely make sure we do everything that we can to try. Lastly, I want to congratulate a winner of something fun that we do in Congress, which is last year's Congressional App Challenge in the 5th. The App Challenge is intended to engage students in grades 6 through 12 to create innovative apps that address real-life issues in our community. I am pleased to announce that my office selected, it's a hard name, okay. People say I have a hard name, but oh my goodness, okay. Ved Bastodkar and his app, Brett Head, as the winner of the 2025 competition. Fed's app is youth-centered personal finance app built to challenge the culture of instant gratification through reflection and accountability. Fed is a sophomore at the Blake School in Minneapolis. He is fascinated by math, economics, participates in DECA, Model United Nations, and is a captain of his fencing team. Please help me in congratulating Fed. Oh yeah, say your name the correct way.
Yeah, my name is Ved Bastodkar, Vedbastodkar.
You made it sound a lot easier.
I mean, I say it every day, right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fed. Is this his? No. All right, with that, we'll take questions.
First of all, thank you for staying after that incident.
I learned at a young age you don't give in to threats. You look them in the face and you stand strong. They pick the wrong person every day. Where's your mic? Right here.
I do not know the level of Congress. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I do not know the level of power Congress has over ICE, but is there anything you as representative could make efforts to try and lead to the arrest of Jonathan Ross and the multiple ICE officers that killed Alex earlier this week?
They were CBP, not ICE.
Yeah, I mean, the law enforcement with the Department of Homeland Security, obviously there are investigations, even if the federal government has chosen not to fully comply in having a transparent investigation. I know Keith Ellison's office, our Attorney General. I know that our district attorney, Mary Moriarty, others have already started the investigations. And, you know, as Keith reminds us every single day, murder is not something that has a statute of limitation. And so regardless of what these people think, we're going to make sure that they are held accountable in every way that we can.
Hi. There's so many ways to help, and one of the things I was thinking of is we have our own MPD that is stretched so thin. Is there anything that we can do to help them? I mean, could we bring in snacks to the office? You know, just anything that might help them feel better or appreciated. And along those lines, we also have the National Guard now coming in. And so we could apply that to them as well. You know, showing up with coffee, or is there something we can do?
You know, I will say one thing that ICE has succeeded in doing is make Minneapolis residents love Minneapolis police. and have, I mean, I say that with the utmost respect. You know, that's the only thing that they have succeeded in doing. No, I mean, it's been beautiful to really see our National Guard passing out donuts and coffee to people at Whipple. You know, any way in which you can show your gratitude. I think, you know, what has been the most important piece for all of us is, one, to remain united. Two, not to just feel grateful for those you know who are out there, but to feel grateful for everyone who is out there, because Minnesotans are showing up for one another in ways that people didn't expect, and we are showing the country and the world what real solidarity looks like. And we should be goddamn proud of ourselves for that. So yes, whether you are showing up to say thank you to protesters and, you know, people who are documenting, or saying thank you to those that are keeping the peace, whether it is the sheriff's office or MPD, I would encourage it.
So you could just bring in like a couple things.
I would assume that would be fine with them. Well, yes, obviously you wanna make sure they're not scared that you're trying to poison them or something. Yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll take one right here.
I'm just curious, we've seen now multiple cities be invaded by ICE, and it seems as though they've left, right? LA, Portland. Do we have any sort of understanding of what is there a quota that they have to meet, or a certain time? How can we grasp when they could potentially leave, when their whatever objective has been fulfilled?
So what we do know now is that there is some agreement, we don't have the full details, that Border Patrol will leave. It is my understanding, you know, you mentioned being overwhelmed, there's 5,000 of federal law enforcement that has besieged not just our city, but our state. And so it is my understanding that those that are tasked to control the border, exercising the 100-mile rule for Minneapolis, at least will leave. And the timeline was today, so they might have already gone. I saw reporting about 800 of them have already left. And so we'll be tracking that to see how many more of them leave. Generally, the way ICE used to operate is that, you know, there's two kinds, and you've seen, you know, our corrections department clarify this. You've seen Hennepin County talk about it. Generally, there are two paths. One is that someone has been adjudicated, they were arrested for a crime. If their crime is a felony, and they were not a U.S. citizen, oftentimes they would finish their sentence because they committed the crime against us, and we want them held accountable. And then once their sentence ends, the corrections would call and say, we have someone being released at this time, on this day, in the next week or month. And they basically turn them over in the parking lot. Now, that person obviously has the right to ask for you know, a judge to prolong the time they're here, to contest their removal. Sometimes you hear these stories of people who've been green card holders for 30 years. They came here as a baby sometimes. And so those removals take a long time, but they are in ICE detention as they're going through those. We also used to have before, maybe 6-7 months ago, law that said you couldn't indefinitely detain people if they did not have an actual crime that they were being detained for. And we know that immigration in itself, a violation of immigration is not a crime in itself. So the other way, which is kind of what they're saying they're doing now, which is not the way it's supposed to be done, normally the way it gets done is that you have an order of removal for someone, and you try to find out where that person might be. You do surveillance, you talk to known people to them, you find their previous employment, you find a way, and then they do those raids early in the morning, 6 a.m., where people are not really out trying to find the person in that home or in that business that they thought they might be in. And so we do know that the way that this is being carried out, and you've seen the incidents in where they're literally jumping out of a car or breaking a car window or trying to get into somebody's space, that is not enforcement. That is terrorizing. That is terror. And those are not the kind of tactics we are known to have in our cities. Those are the kind of tactics we're known to have cities outside of the United States where people are brutalized. And so that's why we've been so opposed to it. We'll do right there.
Hi, I just wanted to first say thank you so much for all you're doing for us. I'm just so proud that you're our representative, so thank you. And I'm just wondering, what can we do to maybe get some of your colleagues to have the same fire you have? It's really incredibly disheartening to see folks saying we need body cams on ICE or just more training. That's really, really discouraging, and I want to see more folks follow your lead. So what can we do to put the pressure on them?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that. I mean, certainly for my Democratic colleagues here that represent you all, collectively have felt like the way that we are being terrorized and the fact that there aren't guardrails for there to be justice and accountability reminds them of the fact that many of us have been saying this since ICE was created. When it was with DOJ, there was more accountability. This version of it that we've now had to live with for a little over 20 years is not a version that allows for respect for our constitutional rights. And so I think they're doing it to themselves. They're showing these lawmakers the mistake that they made in voting for their existence, in voting to give them money, because what they are doing is just so blatantly lawless. So just keep sharing. Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were protesting. I didn't know if you were saying don't call on her.
I would like to say that I am very proud of you as our representative, and I am so glad that you are our leader. And I want to ask something on a very personal note. I am an immigrant. I came from the Philippines. I went and got everything that I was supposed to do. And I actually lived through the EDSA revolution. And I felt that if I could make it to the United States, I will be okay. At this moment, we didn't know how it was going to turn out, but we made a pledge, the Filipinos, that we would be there for each other. And I have seen you Minnesotans do the very same thing. And I'm very proud of you, and it is my honor to be with you. I'm asking on a very personal note. Some people specifically me. Some people did not go to their SNAP renewal. Some people didn't renew their medical. Because I want to be able to go home. And I have my certificate of naturalization. And the interview is supposed to be in person, but I don't know if I can make it back home. Mm-hmm. So my question is, this is some people, which is specifically me. And I didn't want to go because I'm not well behaved. And I'm not sure who would bail me out for causing good trouble. I would. So is there a way for us to submit papers? Is there a way for us? I know there's protocol, there's regulations, but where I'm supposed to go,
yeah,
and I can't outrun them. So I don't know. So if there's
citizen, like I vehicles that you can schedule where they will come and do the interview in a place where you're comfortable to be able to take those interviews. And so check in with your caseworker and let them know how vulnerable you feel. I will also say, again, Minnesotans, we're just amazing. There's so many mutual aid opportunities where people might be able to help you out in other ways as well. People talk a lot about illegal immigration and criminals. But what this enforcement has truly done is frighten actual citizens and documented neighbors. The children that are afraid to go to schools, the mothers and fathers that are afraid to drop them off, the elderly shop owners at Caramel Mall, they're all citizens. But they don't want the trauma of seeing men with heavy machine guns, because that is who they escaped to come to the United States. They don't want to go through a checkpoint because that is what they escaped to come to the United States. They don't want a gun drawn on them asking for their identification because that's what they escaped to come to the United States. And so for me, that has been the hardest part to communicate to people, because they just don't understand how terrifying it is one for just the average person who has never seen this level of weaponization. But it is also severely debilitating and triggering for people who have had machine guns drawn at them at a young age and who thought their only salvation was to find a country like ours, where they never have to worry about that because there's a constitution, it's known for its liberty and freedoms. And so it's truly heartbreaking, this moment we find ourselves in. But if we know anything about US history, is that everything is temporary. And we will find our way out of this. So thank you all. You know, I've survived war, and I'm definitely going to survive intimidation and whatever these people think they can throw at me, because I'm built that way. Thank you.
Thank you.